How's it hanging, guys? Aaron from PhoneDog.com here, and the LG Revolution's older, bigger, smarter, more powerful brother is in the house. The LG Optimus 3D here, and it was announced at Mobile World Congress earlier in the year in Barcelona. It has a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, the LG Revolution should have had when it launched on Verizon. One of those being the dual-core processor. It has a 1 GHz Texas Instruments OMAP processor, so Texas Instruments in the dual-core game now. And also it has a 4.3-inch display, 5 megapixel, actually dual 5 megapixel cameras on the back. It shoots regular video in 1080p, 3D video in 720p, front-facing camera as well. Android 2.2 still has that custom LG user interface on it as well. Now, it's not available in the States just yet. Hopefully, we'll see it soon. It's coming to AT&T as a Thrill 4G at some point this summer, so it's my guess that we'll see it sometime in the near future. Is this a device for you? Should you go with the Evo 3D, or should you go with some other 3D device that's going to come out later in the year? Kind of wait and see what happens. We'll find out that and more in the review. But first, special thanks to our buddies over at Best Buy. They're not hooking us up with these since they don't stock this phone. They just hooked us up with a bunch of phones that I just shipped to PhoneDog East for use in our One Paw Bandit game. So when you go into Best Buy Mobile to buy this or Revolution or whatever, you can't buy this, but Revolution, whatever, you'll walk out working. Set up email, set up your web, help you get everything going. So when you walk out that door, you're working. Enough of that, let's get into the review. Is this a phone to get? Should you try and buy one of these from an unlocked reseller? Or should you wait for the Thrill 4G? Or should you wait until later in the year and see what other 3D phones are out? We'll find out that and more in the full review. You know, I have to tell you, the 3D content on this device is pretty trippy, to say the least. It's kind of interesting to see 3D on a mobile phone. But here it is, the LG Optimus 3D. Now, this was announced at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona earlier in the year. So you have this coming out at some point in the year, and it's coming to the States as the LG Thrill 4G on AT&T. And then you have the HTC Evo 3D, which is coming to Sprint on June 24th. So you have some 3D devices that are starting to hit the market. And I'm telling you, it's kind of funky to see 3D content on these devices, but it's a pretty well-built device. Now, this to me is what the Revolution should have been. And when I say should have been, I'm really referring to the dual-core processor. This has a 1 GHz Texas Instruments OMAP dual-core processor, so it's much faster in day-to-day use, not only in day-to-day use, but also in things like quadrant standard scores and more, since it has a dual-core processor. Big benefit there, 1 GHz dual-core, 4.3-inch display, and you still have the front-facing camera for video calling. You have dual 5 megapixel cameras. Now, this shoots HD video at 720p, and it shoots non-HD video at 1080p. So depending on what type you're shooting, that's what it takes it at. Micro USB charging port over here, HDMI port over there, mini HDMI. You have your 3.5mm headphone jack up top, along with a power button over here, your volume rocker, and then a button to get to 3D. Now, what that does is it brings out the 3D menu, which you can't see in the camera since it doesn't show 3D, but you can see 3D guide, YouTube 3D, and this is actually displaying in 3D right now. So if you hold it the right way, it looks like it's popping out of the phone. So you have 3D gallery, 3D camera, and actually I have to actually look at the camera because it gives me kind of a headache, but 3D guide. And one thing I will say, you know, I've worked a little bit with the Evo 3D, and perhaps they've tweaked it, and maybe my opinion will change when it comes to the PhoneDog Labs, as I like to call it, basically my office. But, you know, this is one of my favorites in terms of 3D that I've worked with. I feel like the 3D image quality is a little bit better on this one than on the HTC Evo 3D. Now, that said, you know, I've had 10 minutes with the Evo 3D, so, you know, perhaps that'll change when I get it in the office. But you have all these 3D options here. Camera, you have pre-installed galleries, YouTube 3D, guide, games and apps, and more. So you have that button over there on the side, and then you have that flash in the back, which I forgot to mention a second ago. Now, it's running Android 2.2, but it's running LG's custom user interface, just like the LG Revolution. But you can just see in a lot of things in day-to-day tasks, for example, just scrolling up and down. And if you get a chance, go back and check out the Revolution video where I'm doing the exact same thing in its review, and you can really see where it speeds up and slows down as a result of having that dual-core processor versus a single-core processor. So, but exactly the same functionality in terms of the menu, with the exception of a few tweaks because it's a European device. Now, up top here in the notifications bar, you have a little shortcut that they've installed, Select Music. So, you have music pre-installed. You can access your music directly, but you have sound, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS connectivity, and mobile data, which of course is enabled right now, and then your notifications appear down here. Now, the LG Optimus 3D, at least the European version, works on AT&T's 3G or HSPA Plus bands, rather, which is what they're calling 4G. So if you do happen to get this device unlocked and it's the European build of the Optimus 3D, you are good to go with AT&T connectivity. So that's what the notifications bar looks like. But just to do a recap, let's walk through, and you'll see a lot of similar features from as HTC Sense or TouchWiz. You'll see some similar features on LG's user interface, like the pinch to bring in and bring out the individual home screen. But you'll see some differences as well. And if you've seen Sense or TouchWiz up close and personal, you'll notice when I do something like wallpaper, it brings up this customized menu. It's not an Android menu. It's something they've installed as part of their custom user interface. And you can see the tabs down here where you can select widgets, shortcuts, folders, or various wallpapers. So we can change the wallpaper, for example, to let's do this one, for example. And I can bring it right back out. And you can see that the wallpaper's been changed. Same thing with widgets. When I press and hold, it brings up that, instead of bringing up that usual Android menu that we know and we're familiar with from the stock build. Just to show you as an example, that is what I'm talking about. Instead of bringing that up, it brings up the tabs at the bottom, and you can select. So they've kind of gone the route of TouchWiz, or at least how TouchWiz does it in TouchWiz version 4, which is what comes on the Samsung Galaxy S2. It's kind of this custom right-click, if you will, a custom way to add widgets and a custom way to do wallpapers and more. But you get the idea. And just to walk through briefly which widgets it comes with, let's go in here. And you can see analog clock, application manager. One thing I did like, LG's version on the Optimus 3D, I don't believe it's on the Revolution, but on the Optimus 3D, it has a custom battery indicator. So you don't have to download app or widgets like battery life or some of the others in the Android market. Then you have Bluetooth controller, bookmarks, calendar, digital clock. So you have quite a few. LG World, messaging, for example, network data, and more. So you have quite a few widgets that are available. So it's not like one of the earlier builds of TouchWiz where really you had 3 or 4 Samsung widgets and the rest were Android widgets. You can see quite a few LG widgets. Just to see messaging, for example, you have 2 different options. And this kind of reminds me of HTC Sense, because you have 2 or 3 different messaging options or widget options to customize it to how you like to have it customized. So we can go to messaging, we'll click on that one, for example, and you can bring that right up to the home screen, and once you back out, it's installed. So that's what that one looks like. Another one I wanted to look at, kind of go over with you, network data. For example, we can bring that up. 0 megabytes apparently. But a lot of the cool little shortcut or cool little widgets like that that are pre-installed. I happen to like the AccuWeather widget a lot, which does come on the Revolution and actually comes on it out of the box. When you turn it on for the first time, it should be right there in the middle of the main home screen. So a few widgets out of the box, pretty decent widgets at that. And then of course the typical Android stuff as well. But anyway, Android 2.2. Custom menu here, and we can go through and take a look at what comes installed. 3D camera, 3D gallery, games and apps. Just like I showed you in the beginning when I clicked that 3D button, that's what all of that is. Then you have Let's Golf 2 and Nova, 3D videos, Asphalt 6, so a bunch of 3D games as well. And then in your applications, you have a few LG applications, App Advisor, and you can see that also as a result of this custom skin, the icons look a little bit different. You can see contacts, call log, obviously look different than stock Android and look different from their counterparts over at Samsung and HTC. So you have Polaris Office pre-installed, remote call, okay, I almost said remote cell, remote call, smart share, software update, what's new, and then of course the stuff that I've downloaded as well. So Polaris Office is there. Then you have this news feature, which I happen to like. Let me open this up. And you can go into Yahoo News and select your country and select your selections. Let's go into United States just to see what comes up. I'll tap to select selections, my bad. Let's do just top stories just to see what comes up. And little things like this, that kind of make a device unique, I happen to like. Let's go back here. No recent news. I don't believe that. And it is on Edge at the moment. Even though this device is 3G capable, it's on Edge. I promise it does support HSPA Plus and 3G. So no recent news at the moment. Quite interesting there. Okay, there we go, finally. So you can see cool little features like that. But anyway, 7 home screens out of the box. And you can just see the responsiveness when I go through this. Again, go back and watch the Revolution video if you don't believe me. But the responsiveness is so much better on this device as opposed to the LG Revolution. Now, one thing that is kind of consistent across the board with the Revolution and with this device, the touchscreen sensitivity is not quite there. I found that when I scroll through, and of course it's not going to duplicate when I do it right now, but like let's say I'm scrolling through and I want contacts. Do you see how I just clicked on contacts and it kind of skipped a little bit instead of going directly in? I've noticed that the sensitivity is a little bit off to me, or the responsiveness is a little bit off. It doesn't seem like the calibration is quite right on the touchscreen. And I had the same issue with the LG Revolution as well. I go to, like, be sitting down in a coffee shop or something, and I scroll up to hit Twitter, and I have to hit it 2 or 3 times, kind of like that, before it popped up and let me into the individual application. So screen, be on the lookout for that. If you do get a chance, you're in Europe, or you have access to this device somehow, be sure to check it out prior to purchasing. See if it is a device that you really want and you're willing to commit to for 2 years. Who am I kidding? No one keeps a device for 2 years, or most people that are watching this video don't keep a device for 2 years. So for at least 2 weeks, make sure it's a device you like for at least 2 weeks. But let's go into messaging and take a look. Now this is exactly the same, or very, very similar at least, to what you see in the Revolution. A few minor changes. I don't believe the paperclip was there on the Revolution. So going here to enter message, and it comes with one keyboard and one keyboard only out of the box, and that is the LG keyboard. It does not come with anything else. Of course, you can sideload keyboards, things like Motorola's multi-touch keyboard if you want to, HTC's keyboard, and more. But out of the box comes with the LG one. Now this one's been pretty quick to get a bashing, but I actually don't mind it. The Quake Brown Fox is happy that he's happy to be alive. Quick Brown Fox is happy to be alive. Then of course you have it in portrait and in landscape mode. Now this keyboard's gotten quite a knocking from reviewers across the various tech sites. I don't mind it that much at all. It actually reminds me quite a bit of the iPhone keyboard. The auto correction isn't that good. I will be honest there. The auto correction isn't nearly as good as the iPhone 4, some of the other even Android devices on the market, HTC's for example, and Samsung's to an extent, although Samsung's isn't my favorite, as you know. But it's not that bad. It's really not. It's easy to get used to, and I think once you understand the typing style, I was going through trying to blaze through it and was skipping keys. Once you understand the methodology, or methodology, you get the idea. The methodology of typing on, I think it's a little bit easier to type on. You just have to go with the sound, and overall, the keys are spaced pretty well. And then, of course, you have this row down here for space, and you have a little button here where you can kill off the keyboard if you don't want it. Now, to access your symbols, of course, over here, and you can roll through your numbers and your various symbols. Then you can go to global if you want to. By clicking on that, you should be able to rock the global layout if you want to. And then, of course, you have your emoticon shortcut as well. So not a bad keyboard at all. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be in several reviews and other places across the net, several reviews, videos, etc. Not a bad keyboard at all.